So if you don't mind, I'd love to hear how you think about it. How high could it go?
I think that there are multiple outcomes that determine what the US dollar price could be. And so let's just walk through three of them, right? We mentioned earlier that Bitcoin could be a store of value, could be a medium of exchange, or it could also go the distance and become a unit of account. And so the way I kind of look at it is...
And by the way, what do you mean by, I understand store of value, right? Mm-hmm. This is like where I put my cash to hold it. You know, people could buy gold, they could buy stock, they could buy real estate. I understand medium of exchange, like I'm going to buy stuff with it. The third category, what does that mean?
Unit of account. So if I ask you, how much is the box of cereal at the grocery store, you would tell me it's $3.50. So you're using dollars as the unit of account. There's a subset of the Bitcoin community that believes Bitcoin will become the unit of account. And so you may say it is 1 Bitcoin or it is, half a Bitcoin.
That's an expensive cereal.
Yes. There's nuance, obviously, in terms of just as the $1 equals 100 pennies, there are smaller units of Bitcoin called Satoshis. And so the idea would be, it's 1,200 sats or whatever. And so I basically look at this as a probabilistic outcome. And if you said to me it becomes a store of value on a global scale, it's probably worth, at the high end, $1 million. If it ends up being a medium of exchange—
$1 million per Bitcoin.
$1 million per Bitcoin, correct. If it ends up becoming a medium of exchange, it's probably worth millions of dollars per Bitcoin. And then if it ends up becoming a unit of account, there's actually no price for Bitcoin, which is a very interesting concept. So the reason why I say about $1 million or so, if it was to become a global store of value, that's 2 times the size of the gold market. And, frankly, I'm probably being conservative in looking at it. If you think of Bitcoin as at least a 10x improvement on gold as a store of value, it's more divisible, it's virtual, it's more portable, it's more secure, all these different things. The gold market's about 10 trillion or so, which is about 500K a Bitcoin if Bitcoin just reached the 10 trillion market cap. And so a 2x would put it at $1 million, and then obviously anything above that would kind of just move in lockstep. Now, if it became a medium of exchange, the reason why the price per Bitcoin is higher is because more people want to use it. Not just the people who want it for a store of value. Now it's people using it to actually purchase things or accept it for the goods and services that they create. And so I'll use a broad brush and I'll say millions of dollars because I think it's really hard to put an exact number on it. Is it 2 million, 5 million? What? I don't know. I tend to think that if it becomes anything more than a store of value, people who are holding Bitcoin are probably pretty happy. And the difference between $2 and $4 million almost doesn't matter at that point. Given where the price is today. Now, the last category, this unit of account, is when I say no price, it's because if I said to you right now, how much is $1 worth? You would say, well, the dollar is worth $1, right? $1 equals $1. And so we don't think of the dollar as volatile because everything is priced in dollars. Actually, what we do know is that according to the official numbers, the dollar has lost 7% of its value over the last 12 months, right? Probably more than that on the unofficial numbers. And so the reason why we don't think of price of $1 is because we're using an asset to buy a good or service that is priced in that asset. And so if Bitcoin was to become the unit of account, we would no longer think of a Bitcoin price, right? What is price? Price is the exchange value between 2 assets. And so if I have 1 Bitcoin, as we've been talking, what's the price of Bitcoin? $17,000. Meaning if I go to the market and say, who wants to buy my Bitcoin from me? They'll pay you $17,000. Well, if you do that with dollars, other people with dollars will say, well, I have $1, you have $1. Like, I don't want to buy it, right? What they will do is they may want to buy it in other currencies. They may want to buy it in the price of a home or something like that. And so ultimately, if Bitcoin is to achieve this unit of account, the price becomes non-important, right? Because now it's all about purchasing power, which is where the dollar has been.
How many Big Macs or Starbucks lattes can you purchase with it?
Correct. And so the only really path, I think, to a true unit of account on a global scale is if Bitcoin was to ascend to become the global reserve currency. Now, the dollar is the global reserve currency today. That is why we price things. If you ever go to another country, there are many countries around the world where they accept their native kind of home currency. And then they will also accept dollars, right? It serves that purpose of kind of an international currency that everyone uses as the reserve. Now, for Bitcoin to get to the global reserve currency and to ultimately become that global unit of account, I think there are 2 paths that are worth mentioning. The first is what I call the internet path, which is just more and more commerce and GDP gets onto the internet, and somebody wants a native currency for the internet, and therefore Bitcoin serves that purpose in a way that fiat currency struggled to. And so it just naturally eats up more and more of economic activity, serving as that kind of global reserve currency. The second one is a little bit darker, which is the failure of the fiat currencies, or kind of the failing of the fiat currencies at the foot of Bitcoin. Now, as we know, fiat currencies throughout history have failed over a long period of time. The average life of a currency is somewhere ballpark around 250 years or so, depending on who you talk to and which currencies they're looking at. And so when you see that as kind of the historical context, that doesn't mean that there aren't outliers. Some currencies could last many years after that, and some currencies last, 2 years and then they fail. But what I think the Bitcoin community believes is that Bitcoin is this automated central bank. It is something that is programmatic. It exists in a virtual world, but it is decentralized. No one controls it. And so what it has done is it has mitigated many of the risks that fiat currencies have, most namely the fact that if you have a fiat currency, that means someone can create more of it, and humans are greedy and they create more of the currency, which ultimately devalues it, which then leads to its demise over very long periods of time. Well, if you have Bitcoin and no one can create more of it, then therefore it is likely to continue to ascend in popularity and adoption, which means that at the same time that the fiat currencies are dropping in value and popularity, this is ascending. And so it looks like it could become a replacement. What are the odds of that? You and I don't have enough time to sit and debate all the different viewpoints, but literally there are people who think that there is a -% chance, all the way to people who think there's 100% chance, and everyone in between. But that would be one of the paths that it could get there, to be that unit of account and ultimately kind of have no value in price terms.